Hi, Mindy Eisenberg of Yoga Moves MS.
Hello, Sari. So good to see you.
I love when a camera's on you.
I don't. The light,
I know,
gotta get it
well,
just right.
you have it just right. I love your home studio, which we're getting used to you in a home studio, aren't we?
Yeah, this is like my little hangout where
Yeah.
nobody can come near me. It's kind of nice. It's peaceful. I go down here and
So
the,
Yoga
the pets
Moves.
can't get in. And
Wait, the pets don't do Yoga Moves MS?
actually, they do. My Parkinson's class, we do 2 classes for the Michigan Parkinson Foundation on Wednesday and Fridays, and everybody knows Oscar because Oscar comes on down, wants to check out what's going on. Sometimes he just lies right in front of us, or he goes on those blankets over there so I can't pick them up and use them.
I mean, and Oscar's getting a little older now, I think. It's been around a while. That's so cute. Well, I think that's what's happened. We're all working from home. And so not only have our children become part of the routine and coming in and out of our meetings and our workouts, but our pets for sure. So Yoga Moves, tell everybody who and what Yoga Moves MS is all about.
Yoga Moves MS is a nonprofit, and we specialize in providing adaptive yoga and yoga therapy and mindfulness and meditation for people with neuromuscular conditions, which is really a broad array of people, all the way from people with MS to Parkinson's to someone with a spinal cord injury. We have people who are in chronic pain who come to our classes, or arthritis. Our primary focus has been MS for years. And then we were approached by the Michigan Parkinson Foundation to provide classes, and that has been a blast. They are a lot of fun. We're getting anywhere from 40 to over 60 people per session.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it makes such perfect sense. It's such it's a perfect collaboration. Look who's
There's Oscar.
He heard us talking about him. That's perfect.
Hi, Oscar. Oscar had a major haircut.
So
he just wanted to show off his down dog.
So, I mean, and what a perfect, it makes sense. It just makes sense to have, to be in alignment, as they say, with the Parkinson's Association.
Absolutely. And they've been so supportive as well. They're kind of like a homegrown organization right nearby. And from day one, they're like, what supplies can we get you? We did have a class that was physically at their location. And then really the first week that we knew we were in COVID and we were going to have to cancel these classes, she's like, we're going virtual. And I
think that was one of the interesting things. And just to back up that, and you and I talked around that time, but I remember I reached out to you back in March. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? And you were ready to go. You would not let your clients, they wanted to keep going. A lot of them wanted to figure out how to go in still, but even back in March, they were gonna put a mask on, or they were gonna, distance themselves. Your clients are probably the most loyal. They know they need their yoga. It feels good to them. I like to say it hurts, it feels so good, but it's so therapeutic for them. They like the friendships. It feels good. But I do remember being worried for your clients because I know they need it. But they were willing to do whatever.
We did a little poll. I think it was the Friday before everything closed down, and about half the class wanted to meet the following Thursday.
Yeah.
And then a few of them thought we were wimps that we were closing down. And some have still asked when we're going back live in person. And I'm, obviously it's not going to happen for a while. And there definitely are pros and cons to live versus or being in person versus virtual. We can't physically help, but we're reaching so many different people now. We had our first person from Germany on Monday on our class. And when we did our webinar, our Holistic Health and Wellness Forum, we had people from all over, from Kuwait, Portugal. I was really taken aback by it.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that conference in a few minutes, but I tell people, well, so now your classes are virtual, and how do they find the classes, and who should be finding the classes? So if you're listening and the class may not be for you, but what I like to make sure we're doing is sharing that information, because we all know people.
Exactly. And that's really how it works, by referral. What happens is a lot of people find me through social media, through Instagram or Facebook. They go to my website at yogamovesms.org and they fill out a waiver, or they can email me and I'll tell them to fill out the waiver. Once they fill out the waiver, every week I send out the schedule, and we now have classes 6 days a week.
Wow.
We just started a Saturday class and we had like 18 people. So that's pretty amazing for a Saturday at noon.
It almost seems like, even with the pandemic, I mean, you've been able to even offer more then, because
we have. I don't think we'll stop. Even when we can go back to in-person classes, I would feel like I was letting down people who can come on and they're like, I didn't know this existed. And we know that people are feeling better from doing it because they're telling us that. There's still that group that's a little scared to sign on. But the ones that are regulars.
What's the difference between yoga and Yoga Moves MS? The philosophy of Yoga Moves MS and a yoga class down on down Orchard Lake or down, somebody's community.
Right. So the big difference is we all come in with a commonality of perhaps having a physical or cognitive challenge. And we use all kinds of things like yoga props over there. There's blocks and straps. People use books and scarves, whatever we have to help us get into a pose so that we can experience the pose and get the benefit of it, even if there is a challenged leg that is very spastic or rigid. The strap helps get that stretch. You might not find that in a typical mainstream studio. There are studios that have props, but we also move a lot slower. We take the time to really explain it. We take the time to get in and out of the pose, and the teachers show a range of different ways to get the same benefit. So that's the real difference. Is we might show 3 ways to get into a pose and then talk about how it could even be modified further.
Okay.
Then we also talk about, well, what happens if this happens? I'm actually doing a study right now. I feel very fortunate with a nurse who's getting her doctorate in Utah and in nursing. And she came here to take my teacher training. And we've developed a relationship. She was going to do her study in person, but then had to go virtual. So we figured out how to do it. So last night, we've had a topic every night. One night was balance. One night was spasticity, which is really about flexibility. And someone came on who had missed one class, and she said, that night of spasticity, I walked upstairs and I was triggered by spasms. We had to back off and talk about what would cause the spasms to trigger and how could we alleviate that. We took the time in the beginning of class to answer questions that people are experiencing in their daily life. That question is so vital because other people are experiencing similar kinds of symptoms and want to find a way to help themselves? How are they going to help themselves at home?
So I think like I think it's a big commonality too, within your community, that within MS or Parkinson's, there are similarities that people have in the daily life, and you're giving such an opportunity to sort of be a resource, to talk about how people really experience similar type of things in walking or reaching or doing things. And then, and certainly now in this virtual world, they're experiencing different things, and people can ask these questions and then sort of figure out how to move to accommodate those.
Yeah. And as you're saying, when you said reach, so what we also do is say, okay, this is what we do in the yoga room, but how does this apply to your daily life? How are you going to reach for something up in the cabinet, or, which is a big one, don't do, behind the car? That's where a lot of accidents happen, to the shoulders, reaching back. But how do we apply what we're doing to daily life? There's chair pose, which is so helpful to go from seated to standing and standing to seated. How do we become stronger? Last night's class was on core. And so we could talk about we have the time and the interest to how does what does core really mean to you in terms of finding your inner strength? It's not just about the belly.
Right.
It provides also a setting for people to not be identified by their condition and to be able to, one girl said last night, student said, I like that when I come here, I can say something, it doesn't sound like I'm complaining. No one takes it like she's complaining.
I like that. I mean, like I said, it gives her a voice.
It gives her a community.
It gives her community a voice and answers. It gives her a place to get answers or voice, if you will. It does give her a place to complain, if you will, because I don't know what to vent. I mean, listen, complaining is a negative, I suppose, but sometimes you got to get it out. And
this is a forum to do it.
A forum to do it. I don't
people understand.
Yeah, I feel badly when I hear that, because I feel badly hearing that, because she needs to say it. And so I'm glad she has that forum. I mean, people, you do need to vent. You need to have your safe space. And now she has that.
Yes.
And the truth is, in that safe space, someone probably can say, hopefully, something positive back to say, well, if you do this, you might feel better, or sometimes it's just
a resource. Sometimes it's just knowing other people are having the same experience.
Sure.
When we were in person, you would find that the greatest benefit was being community. Of course, they feel better physically. They do, because movement is a type of medicine. Of course, it's not like taking a pill. It's not prescribed by a doctor, although more and more clinicians are saying, go do some yoga. But the real benefit of having this community, one of the people in this class, because this is an 8-week study, said, I don't know what I'm going to do when this is over. And of course, we're going to find a way for this community to still be together. I was worried when we started putting these classes together, are we still going to have the same feeling? But everybody signs on early, and we know that the first 10, 15 minutes of the class is going to be talking and sharing and getting to know each other a little bit. That does make it different than the more mainstream classes.
Okay. What you said something, and I was thinking about this, in that when you were in person, you always had great staff to help people. And I know that I have been taking some classes online, and then I get, in my ears, like, well, what if you do it wrong? You're going to hurt yourself. And I, of course, worry about that. I've had a shoulder issue, and I think it should be a concern. So how do you, and certainly with your students, we talked about that early on. I know, interestingly enough, the class I'm taking has two other people. The instructor is staring at me. She's like, no, move your leg. No, she can see me. I mean, we're on Zoom. Like, I can't get away with anything. I'm like, trust me, there is no more moving to the back of the room. I am on Zoom. But it's a real, I think it's, and I am doing, PR for exercise places, and I believe in it. I'm not a big promoter of go and sweat in front of people right now. It's mask on, people. But
I'm with you. I don't want to go in the yoga room right now. No.
So, but I think it's an important message to say, especially with, your brand, how are you monitoring? How are you watching? Because I know if I'm going to send someone to you, I want to know.
So a few different things. One is safety is always the priority. Our teachers are trained and highly experienced. We are stopping and starting a little bit by saying, okay, we just went over this. Does anyone have any questions? Mm-hmm. What kind of sensations are you feeling? We also invite them to unmute themselves and ask a question.
Okay.
So that some of it is that the student is empowered to ask the question. I am stopping and starting a few times. We also have a huge monitor set up next to my computer, so I can see the student a lot better.
Interesting.
And if we know that the student is going to have some type of situation where they want us to watch them more, then we work with them so that we can see their full body.
Okay.
The other thing is,
I think that's, and then like I said, I think that's important, because as we venture into the virtual world of doing these things, and in a highly intensified area such as yours, I think anybody should be this proactive, but I think it's important, like, for everybody to understand, if I'm going to send my mother, which I would like her to join your classes,
So the chair yoga is popular because most people feel that they can remain safe in the chair. We still want them to notice if sensation is getting too tense and back off. That's a big one for safety, is don't go your full range of motion. Back off a bit, see how it feels. Go about a third of the way. Okay, that feels all right. Maybe go to 50%, especially if you're new, because it'll surprise you the next day. We don't want them to feel fatigued afterwards.
Right.
We also will say there is the class where we might do some chair and then some standing, but we say to them, are you safe? Do you have a wall? Do you have one or even two chairs is better? If we're going to go down to the earth, and there's a few classes that do, most do not, because we're concerned about their safety. The question asked is, if you go down on the mat, can you get up by yourself, or is there someone there to help you safely? And if that's not the case, then we don't recommend it. So we want to be able to provide a safe environment. And of course, we don't have complete control of it. But to say, you know what, think about it. If you go down, which you might be able to do, can you get back up?
One second. Hello, it was a missed call. It was. Yep, everything's fine. Sorry. Live. So, sorry about that. Yeah, it's like my phone went to an emergency. Sorry, everyone. Like those government emergency things. I don't want to run out of time, and I think one of the things you're hitting on is important, in that we're talking about doing safe yoga at home, and you have a couple tools that anyone can purchase, and I love this. It started out that you became an author, then you became an author of cards and videos. So let's just talk about a little bit about the products, because it's gift giving season too.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons I definitely wanted to reach out to you, because I love the fact that people should be giving the gift of health year round. But I definitely
like that, giving health.
Giving health. Are you kidding? I think people, one of the things I reached out to two of the therapists I work with, and I said, oh, I want to bring you on in December, and we should be giving gift certificate for mental health for therapy sessions. And they're like, where do you get that? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Right now, we all need therapy, spa days, mental health days. I'm so like, but I do think that your collection of items make for great gifts to yourself, to, loved ones. So show them everything that you have
all right.
created.
Well, I did it kind of backwards. See, my students asked for cues that they could do at home.
Mm-hmm.
So what they really wanted was this, but somehow I evolved into this 400-page book.
I'll never forget I never forgot when you handed me that book. I was like, oh, great. It's a weight training book.
It really is. And yeah, when I go to conferences, they'll be like, can you mail that to me? Because I don't want to carry that. But we've done our 5th print of it. So it was the first adaptive yoga book of its kind, and the one that I did in memory of my mother. And the idea is that even though it is a big book, there's really simple instructions in it. And it does give precautions to make sure that you are safe. The other thing that's really different is in the back of the book, there's sequences. Everyone's always like, well, what do I do at home? What do I do at home? So we made these sequences. We also made videos to match these sequences. So for instance, there's one for, what do you do when you're going to sleep? What would be a nice sequence when you go to bed? Or what would be a good sequence when you're waking up? Or let's say you're standing in the kitchen for a while. What would be a good sequence to do in the kitchen? So
I don't want people to think this book is daunting the way it looks, because if you can imagine, and no disrespect, but those yellow books that say for dummies, this book is so beautiful, but it is really easy to follow, because I did steal one, and it is just super easy, because it is add water and stir, in that there's pictures, it tells you what to do. It's just beautiful.
Thank you. And it really is meant to be user friendly, but really what the students wanted was cues to do at home. And we came up with the idea for cards. I originally wanted to do a flip chart, and then we realized cards are really nice because they're divided into, first of all, there's a little guidebook here that gives you instructions how to use the cards and what's a simple yoga breath. And it also gives you some ideas for sequences in the back of it. Then the cards are color coded. So let's say you're going to do a chair practice. You can take out just the chair cards. If you want to do a practice either in bed or on the mat, you would take out just the green. And if you want to do standing, you would take out the blue. And then at the front of each tab gives alignment ideas. So this one has a lot of writing on it because it's alignment. But then you get to more like the forward fold, and there's a few cue ideas. And then how do you vary it is on the back. So let's say,
and those couldn't be easier. And I think, this is just like the perfect, I got to order those. I'm going to send those to my mom.
It also actually does come in an ebook. But I think the cards are nice because you can separate them. But for people like in another country, they might, or, where it's more expensive to mail them, they might enjoy the ebook. So you can pick out your favorite sequence and pull it out and put the other cards away for a while. And then let's say you want to venture into something else and you could pull out another card. Oh, this looks interesting. I'm going to try it.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I say my mom, and my mom does not have MS or Parkinson's, but she's a little older. I won't give her age.
Well, I do think that these cards are ideal for seniors. You're really on a main point here. And we purposely called it adaptive yoga cards. for all ages and abilities, all
Well,
ages and
you
abilities.
you and I have talked about this. There was a time where I really hurt my shoulder and I wasn't able to walk or do anything. And it was one of those things where, you kind of you end up in rehab. And I was telling you about some of the things I was doing. You're like, well, we do that. And so, I mean,
we
yeah.
we picked up different ideas. I've worked, physical therapists, occupational therapists, they come to our teacher training. More and more of them are doing adaptive yoga. They actually love these cards. This is something they can tell their patients about.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's a big crossover. I mean, I think you've picked the niche, that's needed, but I think there is that crossover without a doubt. And then
the lines are becoming, more fuzzy. It's not like this is PT and this is yoga. I have students who go to PT and say, this is really working for me. And I'm like, oh, how could we take that into the yoga room? Mm-hmm. And then the same thing is happening. They're practicing yoga in a chair with some of their patients.
Right. And then there's a video that follows all of that. Is that?
So the videos are of sequences that can be done with the cards or with the book.
It's fantastic. So everybody needs to head over to yogamovesms.org. You can find all of those things this time of year, all times of year, but they're great gifts. I love it because you're supporting the yogamovesms.org. It's a nonprofit, which is the best part of everything.
So every penny that we get from these goes to our classes to support them, because we don't charge for our classes. They're donation only classes. We want everybody to know that yoga is accessible to them.
So we didn't touch upon one big thing, really before we go, because you held one of the second conference this year. First one was in person, second one was virtual.
It was so successful. It really, I was so happy and surprised. We got people, like I said, from all over the world. People can still view those videos. We had experts on MS in particular, but really like the one that was on anxiety and depression can be applied to almost anybody. One was a physical therapist that specializes in neuromuscular conditions. People love her. Talk about followers. She has a huge following, and people
from all over
these videos more than once.
And the people were not necessarily Michigan based at all. They were, from, I would
say about maybe 25% we were getting people, like I said, from Portugal and Canada and Brazil. I'm like, whoa, this is.
But I meant the speakers as well.
Oh, speakers, they were from around the country, and we were able to get some real stars. It would cost us more to bring them in. Yeah. And they are truly loved.
So, I mean, as much as I hope you end up in the real world, the virtual world did not stop you by any means. And if you go to yogamovesms.org, the conference is housed there, and people, can participate by viewing it. I hope people will participate, whether it be in person or virtual, next year or any time. But it's just such an amazing resource. I always love connecting with you.
These were interactive, so we still take questions from people.
Yeah, it was a really exciting day. I mean, the numbers grew huge that people were participating.
For a first-time event, if we have 450 people register, is incredible.
It was incredible.
And then they were able on the side to ask questions, and our speakers were able to answer them. We've had a few questions come in, and we still go back to the speakers and get their answers.
That's amazing.
That's a little different than having a recording that you just turn on.
Sure, it is. And I think what's great about that is you don't get the Zoom fatigue it's more engaging. You're more apt to be engaged and be a part of it. So, Mindy, thank you so much for spending time for me.
You made my day.
You always make my day. I love seeing you. I will talk to you soon.
Okay, namaste.
Have a wonderful day.